Hey, welcome back. This should be the third video in the series, or the second set of notes. Today we're here to talk about the function of the bone. So let's jump right in and get started. So in today's agenda, we are going to talk about four basic things. The functions of your bones are going to be support and protection. So they're either going to be holding your body up, protecting softer body parts, or both. They're going to be in charge of body movement. Yes, I know your muscles are in charge of body movement, but what are your muscles moving? Your bones. And like we already talked about last time, during structure and development, your bones are in charge of blood cell formation and the storage of minerals, which we also talked about because your bones have fatty marrow, and that fat is going to be storing calcium, which is a mineral, and some other minerals for you. So let's go into support and protection. Yes, this is my happy dancing skeleton right here. He's happy to see you. And we're going to talk about which bones do which job. So starting with weight support, we have your lower limbs. No, I did not say legs, lower limbs. You remember chapter 1, I told you that from here to here, your knee, look at my feet to my mouse there, from your knee to your ankle, that is your leg. Right? I'm talking about from your hips down to your toes, that is called your lower limb. Right? Thigh, leg, ankle, foot, right? Or the whole thing is lower limb. Your pelvis also handles weight support. In fact, it's actually going to be weight distribution because all the weight of your upper body from here is going to get spread to either lower limb. Your vertebrae, also known as your backbone, also known as your vertebral column. In fact, it's better known as your vertebral column, not your vertebrae, because each individual bone is a vertebrae. So vertebral column made up of a whole bunch of vertebrae. About 33 vertebrae, but certain doctors want to argue with me about that. We will talk about why later on. And then your thoracic cage. If you have a handout from me, hopefully I remember to fix it, but a past version did not count thoracic cage here. So please add that in if you are capable of doing that. Your thoracic cage, also known as your rib cage. Remember, your chest area is known as your thorax. This empty space inside the cage is known as your thoracic cavity. So your rib cage is actually known as your thoracic cage. And yes, it is handling weight support because your upper limbs are attached to it. So anything that you're holding in your hands, that weight gets added to your ribs. And now protection. Your skull is going to protect your brain, it's going to protect your eyes, and you're going to protect your ears. No, not the part hanging out on the outside, right? It turns out your ears actually continue inward. There are pieces of your ear inside your skull. The part you actually hear with is protected by your bones. And yes, you could argue that it's doing weight support, but your brain, eyes, and ears are very light. It's negligible. Hey, your thoracic cage again. That's right, because not only is it handling weight support, it's also protecting your softer organs. Inside your thoracic cavity, you have 2 lungs, you have 1 heart, you have a chunk of your liver, a piece of your stomach as well. So your ribs are protecting you. And your pelvis, again, is also going to be handling some protection. Not very well from the front, obviously, but from the back and the sides, your reproductive organs are really well protected. Unfortunately, we couldn't really protect from the front without limiting movement. Sacrifices had to be made. So the main function that we're going to be talking about right now is, of course, movement. The muscles contract and the tendons attached to them pull on the bones and move the bones around, giving you movement. We see in this video, zooming in, this is actually a muscle-based video, but we're going to be taking a look at the bones. Let me move this out of the way here. You can see as the muscle contracts, the tendon is attached to the periosteum of the bone. And as it contracts, it pulls the bone up. And as it relaxes, you'll see that this other muscle contracts and its tendon attaches to the bone over here and it pulls the bone down. It's going to happen back and forth. Every bone that moves is going to have two different muscle groups, one to move it one direction and one to move it the other direction. Now, you think back to the vocab, one of the words I gave you was lever, right? An old physical science word that actually exists in your body. Your bones are levers. And that's what you just saw in that video. That was your bones acting as a lever for movement. You see here, this is a simple lever where we have a rod, a fulcrum, a weight, and an applied force. And that lever allows the force to easily lift the weight. And your body is exactly the same way. In this case, the back part of your skull is going to be the lever. The front part of your skull, your face bones, see how they stick out further out front, which means gravity pulls on them more and they count as a weight. And then your neck, not shown here, your neck bones are the fulcrum that your skull bones are pivoting around. And then this applied force would be your muscles pulling on these bones to lift this weight up. And we have three different kinds of levers. This is known as a class 1 lever. And here we have a class 2 lever. Now it's all the same pieces, but they've been rearranged. So we still have the lever, the fulcrum, and the applied force, but here the weight is in the middle. Before it was on the edge, and now it's in the middle. So the fulcrum's on the end, and our applied force, instead of pulling down, we're going to pull upward. Now, you've probably seen something like this before, kind of like a wheelbarrow, right? Where the wheel is the fulcrum, the barrel is going to contain the weight, and you lift from the handles over here. It's the same idea in your lower limb, where the balls of your feet and your toes are going to count as the fulcrum. The rest of your foot is the lever, and then your entire body is the weight. And this muscle is going to be the applied force, lifting, pulling on your heel and lifting your whole body up. And then we have a class 3 lever, which is probably the most inefficient lever there is, right? Where the fulcrum is on one side, the weight's on the other side. So our applied force is going to have to be in the middle. And that is really difficult to do. But we just saw that here in our forearm, where the elbow is the fulcrum, whatever you're holding in your hand is the weight, so our muscles have to attach in the middle. Going back to this video, you see that the tendons don't attach straight down, where they could just fill in here. But here's a little thing about physics. The closer it is to the fulcrum, the harder it is to move. So going a little bit further out actually makes it easier for us to lift the lever up. And if we were to pull this out even more, it would be even easier. We would be even stronger. It turns out chimpanzees are stronger than us. Yes, their muscles are bigger and stronger, but also in their bicep right here, their tendons attach a little bit further, which is why they're able to pull themselves up into the trees easier than a human being can. So that was just a cool fact. Moving on. Blood cell formation. We talked about in the last video that yes, your bones actually do produce blood for you because your blood cannot make it on its own. More specifically, the bone marrow, the red bone marrow in the spongy bone. That is going to make new blood cells for you. And then the yellow marrow in the medullary cavity of the diaphysis. Oh, say that 3 times fast. In the medullary cavity of the diaphysis, in the medullary cavity of the diaphysis, in the medullary cavity of the diaphysis. Ha! Is going to be filled with fat, and that fat is going to have minerals. And those minerals are going to be used to help in bone development. Example, calcium and phosphorus. Both of these are needed in ossification. Your bones are made out of these things. Also some vitamin D that we get from the sunlight. They're going to be released when your body needs it, when your bones are damaged and need to be repaired, when you are growing, anytime that you're going to need it. We're going to get it from this source. All right, that is what we're calling it for today, guys. I will see you in the next video when we start naming the different types of bones. But for now, go back in Google Classroom, see if I left you any work to do, and I will catch you in the next video.